Hello, I'm Chrissy Seaton. Welcome to the Divine Code series number 3. We're going to continue on now looking at the actual introduction that was written by the author, Rabbi Moshe Weiner. And it is important for me to highlight some of the paragraphs out of his introduction. And again, this is to understand the enormity of his work and his thorough dedication that actually benefits all Gentiles, in other words, all Noahides throughout the world today. So I personally feel it's important that you do read the entire introduction that Rabbi Weiner has written. But today I'm just going to highlight a few things that I think are important, or my opinion, that's important to let you know in advance, because I know quite a few of you will have copies of the Divine Code, but there may be some of you who haven't got one yet, and I just want you to understand what's contained in this book, how important it is for us to have this. It's a book of law, it's a reference book. And you may forget some details in certain things, but you can always come back and look it up again. And you've always got this reference guide when you just, every now and then things slip our mind or details might escape us. And we can't be expected to know all 700 pages. It's we're only human, as we often remind ourselves. So I will continue on and read some highlights from Rabbi Weiner's introduction. Look, it's all important. These are just things that stuck out to me, and I felt that particularly if you're new to understanding the Noahide laws, new to learning about Noahide lifestyle, these would be things that I think stick out for you to grasp and understand. So without further ado, I'm on page 24 of the 4th edition of the Divine Code, and this is where Rabbi Moshe Weiner's introduction, his author's introduction, commences here. And the very first paragraph says, the master of the universe commanded Adam, the first man, on the day of his creation. As it says, Genesis chapter 2, verse 16, and the Lord God commanded the man, meaning Adam. God commanded 6 precepts to Adam, and they were the prohibition against worshipping false gods, prohibition against cursing God's name, prohibition against murder, prohibition against specific forbidden sexual relations, prohibition against theft, the commandment to establish laws and courts of justice, and further to that, so they were the 6 commanded to Adam on the day of his creation. Further to that, when Noah exited the ark after the great flood, he added a 7th commandment and gave that to Noah, and that was the commandment we referred to as Ava Minahai, and that means do not eat the flesh of a still living animal. Now, that is not confined just to those words. This encompasses things about our environment, about growing things, taking care of animals, etc. So it's a very big topic. And he commanded, the Creator added these when he commanded Noah. So Noah knew about the 6, but he commanded the 7th. He commanded Noah not to eat flesh that was removed from a living animal. As it says, and God blessed Noah, but flesh with its soul in its blood you should not eat. These 7 precepts are called the 7 commandments for the B'nai Noah, or children of Noah. That is, Gentiles who are non-Jews. So now, look, I just want to give you an example again there's just 2 pages of his introduction, but see these sections here? They're references that you can go and look up at any stage, and leads you to additional explanations, which time just does not permit me to do that. But you are able to do that at your own time and convenience when you have a copy of this book. It goes on and said, included in the Torah, God also repeated and gave to Moses the 7 commandments for the children of Noah, along with their explanation and details. So although at the time of Noah there was the 7 commandments were there, but they were reaffirmed, I suppose just reaffirmed, so they weren't cast off and replaced by the 10. The 10 commandments were given to the Jewish people, whom God was addressing through Moses at Mount Sinai. But at that same time, he reaffirmed the original 7 universal laws for all mankind. Okay. All the Gentiles of the world were henceforth eternally commanded to accept upon themselves and to fulfill these 7 divine precepts, because the Holy One, blessed be he, commanded them in the Torah. And he made known through Moses, our teacher, that the descendants of Noah had previously been commanded to do them. So you can see there's a thread, there's history, the chronology of where the 7 Noahide commandments began and their journey through and up to the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. Rabbi Weiner goes on to say in another paragraph, we are not to rely on anyone else to provide explanation of any part of Torah, whether for Jews or Gentiles, aside from accepted Jewish Torah scholars, for they alone, as students of the earlier Torah sages, are the authorities who explain the oral Torah. He goes on to say, a Gentile is commanded to act in the proper ways that human intelligence would compel him, whether these are obligations to God or to other people or to society as a whole. I want to draw your attention back to the previous words I read, where it says not to rely on anyone else to provide explanation of any part of Torah, whether for Jews or Gentiles. So frequently we hear about so-called authorities on the Noahide laws, or someone who's just happened to come across them and decide they're going to start teaching about them. And we do have 1 or 2 rogue rabbis, I use that term critically, who are misleading people. And that's not right. It's not good. So that is why you need the divine code to measure up. Use this as the measuring stick. If what they're teaching or saying contradicts the divine code, then we have a problem. Rabbi Weiner, continuing on, says, societal morality is indicated in the commandment of judgments, meaning dinim, D-I-N-I-M, that's law, by which the children of Noah were commanded to set up courts of law and judges who will supervise and warn society about prohibited behaviours. It's a concept we're not unfamiliar with. Most societies have a judicial system of some description in place with judges. Continuing on, Rabbi Weiner says, the purpose of this book is to explain these 7 commandments according to Torah principles and Torah law, including both their general rules and their details, and also the moral obligations that are intellectually incumbent. Now that's important. He also points out that the distinction is the pious of the nations of the world. These are the people who carry out God's universal commandments, the 7 Noahide laws, because God has commanded us. On the other hand, wise of the nations are people who think, well, you know what, they're a good idea. Murder's not good, theft's not good. So, you know, it's common sense. We'll just carry out those laws. They're called the wise of the nation, but they're not the pious of the nations. And there's a little explanation towards the end of this, and that comes back to those two terms. Ramban explains in the Laws of Kings, chapter 8, verse 11, the Holy One, blessed be He, commanded them, that meaning the 7 Noahide commandments, in the Torah, and informed us through Moses, our teacher, that Noah's descendants had been previously commanded to fulfill them. This means that even though Noah's descendants were previously commanded to fulfill them, and this divine command was not nullified in legal terms, and Gentiles are still obligated by the power of the original commands, nevertheless, there were more details added by God through Moses at the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. Clearly, the Noahide commandments were commanded to Moses because even though they were commanded previously to Adam and Noah, they were never written down as Torah before Mount Sinai. Their recording in the written Torah was through Moses, and their explanations and details are transmitted in the oral Torah, were given to Moses, as will be explained. So, in other words, they hadn't been committed to writing, transcribed, etc., but they did become written at Sinai. So it just is interesting for people to understand that. Another paragraph says, because we are commanded to them by God through Moses, and B, when the Torah was given by God through Moses, there was a spiritual dimension that he added for the Gentiles as well as the Jews. Now, that's another concept that people find or don't get their head around. There's that layer or accompaniment of spirituality, of it's like a wrapping around you. It's that spirituality. I don't know how else to explain it, but that's how I feel it was, yes. So we go on again, another paragraph from Rabbi Moshe Warner. We believe in Moses and God's true Torah, against which there will never be a real challenge. Based on the true testimony of what the entire Israelite nation saw and heard at God's giving of the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai. Now, don't forget, that was a monumental miracle, that was. People witnessed that, you know. It goes on and says, they all witnessed with absolute surety that Moses heard his prophecies directly as the open speech of God, and that God gave Moses the Torah from heaven. Therefore, if a subsequent prophet arises to challenge, change, or nullify any prophecy of Moses or any part of the Torah of Moses, we can know without any doubt that this person's words are false, as it is well explained by Rambam. Therefore, the obligation to keep the Torah's commandments, and the mitzvahs, in other words, is absolutely true without a doubt. So, going on, the absolute true existence of the Noahide commandments, like the rest of the Torah, is only that they were commanded eternally by God himself at Mount Sinai through Moses as a true testimony, plus that added layer of spirituality. Moving down the page further, previous A Gentile who does so is called, so this is someone, remember I spoke about the wise or pious? Well, this is coming into that now. A Gentile who follows the Noahide laws because he thinks they're common sense and, they're a pretty reasonable thing to do. A Gentile who does so is called wise, but he is not called pious, or a Hasid is Hebrew for pious. Rambam teaches that if a Gentile observes these only from an intellectual standpoint, but not because of God's command to Moses, he will receive reward for his good deeds, but he has not earned a part in the ultimate spiritual world of the future eternal world to come, because that is obtained only by virtue of submitting one's actions to the will of God that he revealed in his eternal Torah of Moses, the tree of life. Further down we go. Beyond this, God added 3 new dimensions through Moses. Number 1, the Torah's details of the Noahide commandments that were not revealed before Mount Sinai, as we will now explain. Number 2, their new strength as absolute and eternal commandments which did not exist before Mount Sinai, as explained above. And 3, after Mount Sinai, it is impossible to add, subtract, or change any of the Noahide commandments forever, as explained below. And it goes on with more explanation. So in other words, you can't just change these things because you feel like it, or we'll celebrate the Sabbath like the Jews do. I think that'll be okay. We'll do that. We want to do that. No, you're adding to those existing 7 commandments, which you're not allowed to do. So, just an example, that is. There's other things too. Now, further, God commanded the precepts of the Torah through Moses, including the Noahide commandments. No true prophet will ever rise to change or add to or subtract from them forever. Further, we go on, it says, God sealed the divine commandments when he commanded mankind with the giving of the Torah to Moses, and he established that he will never send or command a prophet to alter any one of Torah's commandments. This point, which God also commanded to Moses at Mount Sinai, that's Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 1, established the Torah of the Jews as the source for his sealed commandments. This is true also in regard to the 7 Noahide commandments, but only because of the unique transmittal of his commands to mankind through Moses at the public national revelation at Mount Sinai, as explained above. Without God's sealing of the 7 Noahide commandments in the Torah, they would not truly be his eternal word, because of the possibility that they might be changed or added to. So, another piece here by Rabbi Weiner. Pious of the nations of the world will have a portion in the world to come. So these are the people, Noahides, Gentiles, that follow the 7 Noahide commandments because God has told us to. God's commanded us, not because we think they're a jolly good idea. So pious of the nations of the world, they have a portion in the world to come. This is so provided that one accepts them and observes them because the Holy One, blessed be he, commanded them in the Torah and informed us through Moses, our teacher, that the descendants of Noah were originally commanded about them. So I'll just go on here. There's one little last bit here I just wanted to highlight. Because the Holy One, blessed be he, commanded them in the Torah and informed us through Moses, our teacher, this is the 7 Noahide commandments, This is an eternal truth that God, in his infinite kindness, gifted to mankind at the event of the gift of Torah, giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. So there's more to that introduction, which you no doubt will be eager to read yourself when you purchase a copy of it. Now, I just want to also explain again that there are links on my website to information, books, etc. And also there's a document page on the website where there will be some information, some references, etc. that will come in handy for you, and links to further information. But as far as what is written in the Divine Code, all the links and references are going to be on those pages. It would only be something additional that isn't here that I would reference. So always just check that document page as well as the website, first homepage on the website. And so go to my Noahide family website and you'll find references and links either on the main page or on the document page. And I just want to say I'm enjoying doing this series for you. I hope you're enjoying it. It is so vitally important. I am very dedicated to making sure that Gentiles learn from the correct people, from the correct authority, get it right. Don't be put in a position of being confused or being misled, taught by some so-called authorities that really, it's troubling what some people will teach. So always make sure it's from an authoritative source that you get information, and that if you're not sure, then you need to ask someone. Ask Noah, I suggest. AskNoah.org. So in the meantime, I look forward to making another video for you, and I want you to please take care and God bless.